Sanko licky love up on the dam and the gala holla murder. Sanko licky love up on the dam and the gala holla murder.
Police are come and the gala holla murder. Police are come and the gala holla murder. Sanko kissy love up on the dam and the gala holla murder. Sanko kissy love up on the dam and the gala holla murder. Police are come and the gala holla murder. Police are come and the gala holla murder. Sanko boy, you better run. Sanko boy, police are come. Sanko boy, you better run. Sanko boy, policeman are come.
Sanko chasey love up on the dam and the gala holla murder. Sanko chasey love up on the dam and the gala holla murder.
Police are come and the gala holla murder. Police are come and the gala holla murder. Sanko catchy love up on the dam and the gala holla murder. Sanko catchy love up on the dam and the gala holla. Sanko boy, you better run. Sanko boy, police are come. Sanko boy, you better run. Sanko boy, policeman are come.
Sanko licky love up on the dam and the gala holla murder. Sanko licky love up on the dam and the gala holla murder.
Police are come and the gala holla murder. Police are come and the gala holla murder. Sanko kissy love up on the dam and the gala holla murder. Sanko kissy love up on the dam and the gala holla murder. Police are come and the gala holla murder. Police are come and the gala holla murder. Sanko boy, you better run. Sanko boy, police are come. Sanko boy, you better run. Sanko boy, policeman are come.
Sanko chasey love up on the dam and the gala holla murder. Sanko chasey love up on the dam and the gala holla murder.
Police are come and the gala holla murder. Police are come and the gala holla murder. Sanko catchy love up on the dam and the gala holla murder. Sanko catchy love up on the dam and the gala holla murder. Police are come and the gala. Sanko boy, you better run. Sanko boy, police are come. Sanko boy, you better run. Sanko boy, policeman are come.
Sanko licky love up on the dam and the gala holla murder. Sanko licky love up on the dam and the gala holla murder.
Police are come and the gala holla murder. Police are come and the gala holla murder. Sanko kissy love up on the dam and the gala holla murder. Sanko kissy love up on the dam and the gala holla murder. Police are come and the gala holla murder. Police are come and the gala holla murder. Sanko boy, you better run. Sanko boy, police are Sanko boy, you better run. Sanko boy, police wanna come.
Sanko chase the lover pon the dam and the gala holla murder. Sanko chase the lover pon the dam and the gala holla murder.
Bip, bop, police are come and the gala holla murder. Bip, bop, police are come and the gala holla murder. Sanko catchy love upon the dam and the gala holla murder. Sanko catchy love upon the dam and the gala holla murder. Bip, bop, police are come and the gala holla.
This is attorney Shellen Washington, owner and founder of the Washington Law Firm, located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you. So call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.
If you are looking to have your statutory declaration, affidavit of income, identity, damage or lost passport, lost license, tenancy agreement, agreement of settlement, power of attorney, last will and testament, and certification of documents, then you need to visit the Alistair Collins firm, located at the Kellyan Mall, 162 Lamaha Street in Georgetown, between Camp and Waterloo Street. Alistair Collins is a commissioner of oaths and a justice of the peace. Make certain you visit him or call for more information at 649-6410 or 685-6448 or 503-1451. And there's adequate parking available. Go down to the Alistair Collins firm and have all of your legal issues settled and brought to the fore. Alistair Collins firm. Contact them at Alistair Collins firm.
All right. Hey, guess what? Welcome to Straight Up. Let's get right off the top. We have no time to waste. We are going to deal with serious matters as it's affecting, those matters are affecting Guyana and how Guyana should move forward. So we're not going to waste any time. We're going to get straight down into business. Good evening. It's just 9 minutes after 9 o'clock in beautiful Guyana, whatever the time is, wherever you are. Whether you're in England or somewhere there in the UK, it's morning time, and other parts of the world, just spread the message. Let the folks know that we are on. We don't ask you, neither do we beg you. We don't go on our knees and tell you share the link. All we do is we say we appreciate that you do share the link, and we just say that once. We don't say it twice. We don't say it 3 times, 4 times, or whatever. Just once we say, and we ask you to share the link. We just do not repeat that. We do not believe in repeating that. And so you're not going to hear me asking you to share the link or ask you again to share the link. We just do not do that at all. But for all of you who do share the link, we say thank you very much. Someone is saying it's 10 minutes after 2 o'clock in the morning in the UK. Good morning to you guys, Drew Young, and all the other folks out there in the UK. Some folks out, where is it? Hatfield Streets, and then there is Lodge and so forth. All those guys listening to us in the UK. Good morning to all of you. And those of you who are listening to us in the Essequibo, that's a part of Guyana too, still a part of Guyana. Good evening to all of you. Nadira Sukraj and the entire crew. I'm told that she and her entire family, they do sit and watch it. And then we have, when I say watch it, I really do mean watch Straight Up and listen to Straight Up on 107.1 FM. So good evening to all of you. We can't go wrong if we don't say hello to GT Rude Girl, Rude Gal. In order to pronounce that name, you cannot just be as sophisticated as I attempted to be shortly when I said GT Rude Girl. It's actually Rude Gal, and you've got to pronounce that name with some sort of rudeness in it. Patricia Graves, Andy, and all the other folks, good evening. Garfield Collins, good evening. Mr. Collins, your grandson celebrated his 5th birth anniversary the other day. happy birth anniversary to your grandson. And we wish him all the best. And so we just cannot go through all of the list, but we welcome all of you, even those folks, those good folks from Buxton, not the folks who are sucking up and drinking soup and all manner of things in Buxton and other places, but the good people. And those good people are in the majority of Buxton. Speaking of birth anniversary, there is someone by the name of Gwinnett, and Gwinnett is celebrating her 86th birth anniversary. She watches this program religiously every night because she says this is the more of the quiet side of the program. We don't make lots of noise here. If you know what I mean, we get straight to the point. We deal with issues, and that's what it's about. And so we got Nikki. And again, I say, I hope Nikki is not Kwame, because every night, this is what we get from Nikki. You guys find out from me who Nikki is, because this love thing seems to be a one-sided affair, right, Nikki? But I appreciate the fact that you show and you come on the show every single night and that you show much love. Nikki, thank you so much, Nikki. All right, so let's get down into business here. All of you, Miss Booker, Selena Isaacs, who else? The entire folks out there. Jennifer Daniels. Hi, Jennifer. How are you? We got Matthew Dennison. Dennison is in Harlem. Hey, folks from Harlem, how are you doing? And the folks all the way in Maryland as well. We have the Desiree Simon. Sorry, I was looking at Otto Martin also. Good evening to all you folks around the world. Bunny Allison, Marcel Melville, all of you guys. I wish I can just go through the list. And Lily Golivia, I believe, from Pennsylvania. And then we got some folks in Blackbush Polar, Alice Village on the quarantine, Philippi. We have folks in Linden and Ituni, in Kokwani, in Bartica. But some folks who are originally from Bartica, I met some of them in Boston not so long ago, the other day, and they no longer pronounce the name as Bartica. They say Bartica. They're from Bartica. Hey, Guyanese are some strange set of people, but yet we've got to love them. I heard people at the stadium currently are working a bunch of obia. I don't know where Guyanese get this thing from that they feel they light a candle, they light a match, they put little garlic, little onion. Look, guys, that's not how it's done. And if you guys believe in that and believe that that can help you win, well, come elections time, I hope you guys will be burning a lot of garlics and onions and candles and all manner of things and busting 2 eggs, just like you guys are busy at the stadium for a team that is owned by some people who are oppressing you guys as well. So at the end of the day, come elections time, I want to see that those garlics and those onions and those pork and whatever else you got to boil up and cow head and these things. Francine, if you're listening, cow head, goat, whatever it is, goat foot, feathers, and this time the feathers are being used for a particular purpose and not for the main thing that you guys know when people burn feathers, what rolls up and these things. But let's get into some business here. We do welcome all of you. Let's get done as we talk about the obia that the people are working at the stadium and the fact that we don't see this sort of energy coming around elections time when these folks, when these political vagabonds have to get out of office. Those in the installed regime, they really, really have to get out of office by every and any legal means necessary. So let's get down to business now. This is the chairman of the Guyana Elections Commission, Claudette Singh. Lots of confusion going on at the office of the GCOM's office, that is. They have been taking way too many political orders from these folks in the installed regime. And Claudette Singh, for me, has been a changed person. She has always been somewhat fair, even in her judicial decisions. But at the Guyana Elections Commission, we are all seeing a different Claudette Singh. And some of us are beginning to wonder, why is it that we see a different Claudette Singh, a Claudette Singh that is very one-sided, a Claudette Singh that doesn't believe in democracy, a Claudette Singh that is leaning towards an installed regime, knowing very well that this regime was installed and knowing very well that this regime is illegal. And sometimes I wonder whether she does have a conscience. And more and more each day as we go by, I'm beginning to arrive at the conclusion that she probably doesn't have a conscience. That the entire nation is going to waste under the PPP regime. And as we continue to go down the slope, as we continue to go down into waste, people like Claudette Singh have to feel guilty about what is happening in that country right now. And so we cannot exclude her from what is happening because she knows the jiggery-pokery that took place and decided to remain silent. Every single time she's voting in favor of the PPC regime and their commissioners, everything the PPP wants her to do, they get her to do that. And this news item, it says GCOM still to come up with timeline for local government election. The CEO currently is Vishnu Prasad. Vishnu Prasad was the PRO when Mr. Keith Lowenfield was the chief elections officer. And so there was a bit of, on the part of the PPP, they considered it a controversy because then there was Ms. Roxanne Myers, who was said to be far more qualified and experienced than Mr. Vishnu Prasad. She got the job as the deputy chief elections. Lots of people were in the PPP, that is, were crying foul, including Freddie Kissin. They thought it was racism and all manner of things. And so, these things happen when someone from, let's say, an ethnicity doesn't get a job, then they're quick to jump on the mountaintop and say racism. But of course, those people have their reasons for saying. Now we are hearing that, look, GCOM is still to come up with a timeline for local government elections. They've had lots and lots of opportunities to come up with a timeline to say to them, this is what we can do and this is what we can do. That is why we heard first that November they were prepared for local government elections. And then I think sometime last year we heard that mid part of this year. We were already way past mid part of this year. And then we heard then it's going to be November. And then we heard probably December or January. And that it could be February of next year. And then now we're hearing that they're still to come up with a timeline for local government elections. This tells me, especially with the experience of the PPP being in office, they do not like local government elections. They don't want local government elections. And the evidence is there that during 3 years of dictatorship, they've held local government elections once. In 1997, or just little after 1997, the PNC teamed up with the PPP and they were able to oust Hamilton Green as mayor. The PPP and the PNC, that was that the PPP will get the deputy mayorship. The second half of that agreement, the first half went to Mr. Jordan. Mr. Jordan out of Agricola. He was the mayor. And before they got to Philomena Sohoy Shuri to fulfill second half, meant it flopped. And when it flopped, that was it. So Mr. Jordan became not Winston Jordan, but Mr. Jordan became the mayor. It lasted for about a year plus, and then they went back to their regular programming, where Hamilton Green was again voted in around the horseshoe table, not directly by people. Hamilton Green was voted in again as the mayor, and that agreement between the PPP and the PNC went down the drain. But putting that aside, we never got local government elections more than once under the PPP regime. But as soon as the coalition got into office, that was the top of the priority for, or one of the many things that were top priorities for the coalition. APNU AFC government. They held local government elections within the 5 years that they were in office. Some say 3 years, and I can agree with those who say 3 years because they spent the 2+ years fighting amongst the Judases that we saw their heads resurrecting within the coalition. Lots of them, lots of Judases. Some were revealed and some are probably, mind you, some are probably still around, if you know what I mean. And so the PPP, back to the PPP, they're not interested in local government elections at all. Many of you will recall that it was Priya Manik-Chan who went to the outgoing ambassador, U.S. ambassador, Mr. Brent Hart, went to the U.S. ambassador's residence and basically lifted up her skirt, so to speak, and she behaved as her normal self, which is very, very bad. With no manners at all, she went into the home of the then ambassador, U.S. ambassador, and cursed him out, really, saying that they should have no absolutely no part in meddling in the political affairs of the PPP, then the PPP regime. But these are the very people who embraced U.S. Ambassador Sarah Ann Lynch as they were right there at GCOM's office when there was the storming and kicking down the door of the chairman of the Elections Commission with the intent to force her hand. And maybe that probably helped to basically have the current chairman of the Guyana Elections Commission to be operating under duress. And maybe someday soon, some other matters should be revealed. And I can tell you this straight up, that I do know a lot, and that is why I can say without any apologies that the current chairman of the Guyana Elections Commission is operating under duress, is not operating, independently, and maybe it has a lot to do with threats that she received, threats on her life, threats probably visa revocation, and all manner of things. Hence, we are seeing what we're seeing at this point in time. But moving away from that, but just slightly before we go, don't be fooled. There will be no local government elections January, February, or March of next year. And again, I say that the PPP has that horrible track record of not wanting to adhere to democratic principles. They're just in office, and those who have installed them into office, I am almost certain, are now having big regrets at that. So now that we move on, we've dealt with that and the jiggery-pokery that's going on at the Guyana Elections Commission. Let us move on to something else. And this guy is Dr. Ramaya. Dr. Ramaya is from Wim Village on the quarantine, and Wim is a village not too far from Alnis. It's next to Liverpool, Lancaster, and if you're heading back west, it is after that, it is Auckland, then Letterkenny, then Bloomfield, and so forth and so on. Just giving you a quick rundown for some of you who may probably want to visit quarantine for the first time. So this guy happens to be from Wim Village on the quarantine, a stone's throw away from Moses Nagamutu and his generation at Wim Village on the quarantine. And so this guy moved away from the PPP. He joined the AFC when they formed the AFC. He was there. He was one of the biggest supporters of the or official of the AFC. He was there. He was fighting on behalf of the AFC. He fought against the PPP, so I gave him some credit for that. He was there on the quarantine. They had their shows, television shows, and all manner of things that they were doing, fighting against the corrupt and racist PPP regime. So again, I give this guy some credit for that. In fact, the victory of the PPP, the coalition, when a lot of PPP supporters, mainly persons of Indian extraction, when they stayed away from the poll, the PPP didn't see much at all in that angle. I give this guy Ramaya credit for that, because they worked on the lower quarantine, Region 6. It was Ramaya, it was others. I give Ryan Crawford as well, and Ryan Crawford is the brother of J.R. Crawford. Of course, Ryan Crawford should have been in Parliament. Instead, it was the folks in the hierarchy of the AFC who decided that Charan Das should be placed in Parliament. But as much as Ryan F. Crawford got his ways and these sort of things, Ryan Crawford would have been a better parliamentarian than a Charan Das. And it is possible that if Ryan Crawford was in fact chosen, because he was picked, all of a sudden, when the names were submitted to the coalition, Ryan Crawford's name was not there at all. And so it was those in the hierarchy of the AFC decided that Charan Das should go into Parliament and not Ryan F. Crawford. I put my head on the block that had Ryan Crawford been in there, he would not have done what Charan Das did, which is still something that will never be erased from the minds of Guyanese people. Charan Das was basically a sellout, a Judas, and he remains that as he sits in India right now, pomposetting himself as the Guyana High Commissioner to India, wasting taxpayers' monies and so forth. God in heaven knows what he does there. I noticed that recently he has been hanging out with my friend, Terry Gadraj. Terry Gadraj, if you're listening, good evening to you. And yes, Terry is my friend. And sometimes I feel a way when I see friends hanging out with political enemies. Sometimes even those who shake the hands of the political oppressors and consider that to be good politicking. It is just not good politicking. I just thought I added that little piece for now, but it's something that I want to deal with at some other time. So for this guy and his input in ensuring that the PPP was out of office, he was treated badly, in my opinion. It was the AFC who just wanted to give him a regular job, while the other guys who never really worked as hard as this guy was just given an ordinary job. He should have been either the Minister of Agriculture. He has the language, he knows how to talk, and that is what that position really entails, that you have to have someone who can go out and talk to the people, talk to rice farmers, talk to sugar workers, talk to other workers and so forth in a language that they understand. You don't need anybody with big fancy language and these sort of things, as what the AFC did. They submitted the name of Noel Holder. Noel Holder became the agriculture minister. He did a horrible job. He should have never been in that position. Maybe they should have put him as chairman of Gaisuko or somewhere else as a permanent secretary. But one of the biggest mistakes they made, the AFC, when they submitted the list and they wanted whomever they chose to be the minister, Noel Holder was that Minister of Agriculture. You cannot put a sweet boy, you cannot put a sophisticated individual to be a Minister of Agriculture. And so, in my opinion, this man should have been the Minister of Agriculture. So he didn't get a proper position, which was unfair to him. And it seems to have been something of a pattern for the coalition. Just basically put a lot of square pegs in wrong holes, people who were never wrong, people who were never part of the struggle, people who don't understand the struggle. And then when you put them in positions, it's difficult for them to even understand what needs to be done to keep that coalition going. So having said all of that, this guy quit. He walked away from the coalition. Some people were angry, but then again, he had to do what he had to do. And then after the 2020 or leading up to the 2020 general elections, he was spotted at Babujan when the PPP were there to celebrate the anniversary of the death anniversary of Dr. Chetty Jagan. He was there lingering around. He saw Bara Jagdev. They hugged, they kissed up, they made a deal. He came back in after the PPP was installed in 2020. So he got a position, he was around, he was a big boy again. Well, not really so big boy. And so he joined back the PPP, he got a little salary, and then they started to ostracize him. Those little dictators in Berbice started to ostracize him. He got vexed. He was reporting directly to Jack Dale. He was being paid, and the PPP goons in Berbice didn't like him, so they forced him out. And here it is. Having said all of that, again, sorry about that, got a little long-winded. It says here, the corruption worse now than their previous 23 years. This is Ramaya is saying this. Ramaya is back out of the PPP again. He's out of the PPP again. The headline says here, Ramaya says as he quits government job, he quits again. The corruption worse now than their previous 23 years. Now, look, we've got to listen to Ramaya, whether we agree with him or not. I agree with Ramaya. Right? And in Ramaya's own twang, Ramaya could very well be onto something, because I agree with him. And most of you guys agree with Ramaya as well. So Ramaya, thank you so much for what you have done. Thank you so much for coming out and speaking out against the corruption in the PPP. And I agree with you, Dr. Ramaya, that the corruption worse now than ever. It is worse now than the previous 23 years. Not only me saying that, but Ramaya, who was in the belly of the beast, is saying that. Ramaya alleging massive corruptions across the region, that is region 6, community activist Versami Ramaya has once again resigned from his government appointment post. This is the second time that he has resigned. Ramaya submitted his resignation about a month ago, and it will take effect October 1st. That's what it is. Corruption and corruption and corruption and corruption. Somebody's saying here that Ramaya doesn't know what he wants, whether he's a Republican. You have a point. But like I've said earlier, Ramaya was treated badly under the AFC. I wouldn't say it's the coalition who treated Ramaya badly. It was the AFC who treated this man badly. It was the AFC. And maybe we should ask Ramjatan why a lot of people were ostracized. These guys, when they were in office, Ramjatan and them, they were big boys. You couldn't even get close to them. You just couldn't get close to them at all. I've noticed Miss Cassie is saying that I should interview him. I'll be honest with you. I like Ramaya. I like his spirit. I disagree with some of his politics at times, but in democracy, that is expected, right? But were I to have Ramaya on this show here, Ramaya, I'll have to have two persons, Ramaya and an interpreter. Ramaya is as raw as they get. He from Wim Village. Well, of course, some of you may understand, but he raw, bad. You know, if you come here, we got to get an interpreter for Ramaya. Dr. Ramaya, I've noticed somebody said that he is Dr. Ramaya. Thank you, Karen. And hi, Karen, how are you? Is a good herbal doctor that helped one of my family members. Grateful. All right, Dr. Ramaya, you got some good comments from some people here. I'd love to have Dr. Ramaya on this show someday, but he is speaking the truth. Before we move away from that, let's go again what the headline says. The corruption worse now than their previous 23 years. Corruption rampant throughout the country. These people, these PPP people got no shame, none whatsoever. And again, Dr. Ramaya, thank you for speaking the truth. And now let's move away from Ramaya. Of course, the people in the private sector commission wouldn't want that because they themselves, a lot of them, they know who they are corrupt as ever. Corrupt. These are the same people who the other day were asking for the day for some cricket team that hasn't won. They probably lost, even as we speak now, the team that is owned by some oppressors. And yet all of them at the stadium, the folks who are being oppressed are jumping up and dancing. Look, I love cricket players, but I cannot appreciate and support the ownership of that team. But they have lost. I sympathize with the players, and so be it with those oppressors who own that Guyana team. I can't support those oppressors at all. Now let's go on to something else. This guy, remember last evening, and I'll show you how the police force so confused. And speaking of police force, I got a lot of police matters to talk to you about. Controversial matters that we can consider to be corrupt, questionable. We will deal with that shortly. But before we do that, let's go back to Emmanuel Halley. Hey, Emmanuel MN, male Negro. That's what they're saying, security guard. That's how the police force is describing him, as a male Negro. And then again, they're so confused. Let's look at this here now. Acme Richards, called Akeem. He is wanted for murder, but look at what his ethnicity is listed as. This is a bulletin out recently. It says here, African descent, African descent, African descent. And then this guy is male Negro. So they're different ethnicities. This guy is from the male Negro race, and this guy is from the African descent race. That's just to show how confusing these people are in the Guyana police force. And maybe one day soon, they will get to understand that we have long gone past this stage and that all persons should be described as African descent. And when I say all person, I actually do mean that. But in Guyana, that's not how it is. And people are from different ethnicity. But this male Negro stuff should be removed. Should be removed. All right. So let's look at this. Yeah, wanted for murder, Akeem Richards, known as Akeem, and he's of African descent, his ethnicity. All right, good job, Guyana Police Force. Keep this up in terms of the correct ethnicity that you guys have for individuals. What else is on the police blog here? Let's see here. We're hearing, before we get to that, now let me show you guys this. Security guard charged with bullying women via fake Facebook page. So this security guard allegedly has a fake Facebook account. The police, they were able to track her down, charged her, and every single thing. But the police not going after other people who are connected to the PPP and charging them and putting them before the courts and all manner of things. They get some hooligans within the PPP who feel that they can bully people. They can show up at people's workplace and people's homes and all manner of things they feel that they can do. And they have been doing just that. But the police, they're not going after those culprits, those vagabonds, those criminals. They're not going after them. In fact, the police themselves have violated the law that they have been guilty of cyberbullying and all manner of things. But look at who they go after. Just look at who they go after. The ordinary people they go after. And they expect all of the people of Guyana should just be comfortable and happy with that sort of situation that they're in. But anyway, speaking of that, let's go to somebody who has been charged with cybercrime, cyberbullying, and all manner of nonsense, fictitious charge against this individual. Rhonda Lane, good evening to you, ma'am.
And to the viewing public.
Yeah, good evening to you. Now, tell us exactly. A couple of months you were charged with cyberbullying or cybercrime, whatever it is. Can you walk us through that quickly as to what exactly were you charged with?
On police came to my home in the morning. They took me to Lenore police station and said they called me there because I had some things on my Facebook page. They didn't say cybercrime, but some must carry my phone that I would go on Facebook with. So I took my phone and they did the drill. They didn't. The police came, it was 2 police in clothes with the uniform, 3 police in CVs. One of them had a gun. I was then taken to the Lenore police station, and that was strange because it didn't stop in my district, that is then I'm still. When I got to the station, they said that they got some reports from a woman who was a police, made several claims that I had attacked her on Facebook. I told the police, I said, man, I had another phone and the phone lost. I don't know what's going on. And I know that this individual, the policewoman in question, I made several reports to the Denhamsted police station on her continuous harassment. She would see me on the road, come up to me, laugh in the face. Sometimes if we meet up in any store or so, she would hit me with your bag or your body, she would push against me. So I went to the police station, Denhamsted. When I got there, they refused to do anything. I went to Lenore High police station and they sent me back to Denhamsted. Anyway, leading up to that, after I was constantly abused, I could remember one night I had Christmas time, be careful and talking, and I telling them of what was going on and what is girl doing to me this woman, because she was a former friend.
All right, let me just say that, okay, stemming from all of that confrontation between you and this policewoman, and some stuff that the police claim that you posted on your Facebook page, you were taken to Lenore police station and charged. How many charges, please?
Just one charge.
Okay, and how?
Prior to that, they had to send the match to the DPP, and when it came back, the DPP said that there must be charges cybercrime. Anyway, they took my phone and everything. Where we were in the court from May until today. One time, the witness for the police who did the investigation on the phone, when the prosecutor and the magistrate and my lawyer questioned the police said that there is the contents on the phone, but he cannot put me to the phone because my phone was a phone that was never guarded by the password. Everything on my phone was open, and said anybody having access to my phone could have put this thing on the phone. Anyway.
Okay, one second. So the police admitted in court that your phone, there was no password, anyone could have access to it, that if you put your phone down wherever in the house or wherever you go, someone could have access to it. So it was never concluded that you actually made those posts at all, and that came from the police. Okay, continue, please.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what the police said. Anyway, when the police established that fact last week, the magistrate told me that I could come.
Yeah, we've lost Rhonda there for a minute. I
could give a statement, but I opted. Hello?
Yeah, go ahead, ma'am. We lost you for a minute, but that's okay. Go ahead.
I opted not to give any statement.
First of all, 1 second, please, Miss Lane. Did you have a lawyer?
Yes, I had a lawyer.
Did your lawyer show up when you were found guilty today? Was your lawyer there?
Yes, my lawyer was there.
Continue, please.
Yeah. The magistrate informed the lawyer, telling me that I could remain silent or I could give well. I chose to remain silent. Anyway, we had to go back today for a decision. And when I got there, the magistrate said, with all the magistrate questioned the police on giving the statement that the phone was open and anybody could have used the phone to do whatever they wanted to do. That was established in the court. The magistrate said she found me guilty. Placed me, she said the charge, the thing for cyberbullying is 3 years and $5 million fine attached to the 3 years. But she will give me the fine of $500,000 to pay, and I have 6 months to pay. If I don't pay, I could be sent to prison for 1 year.
Okay, one second. So you were found guilty, even though the police established that it could possibly be someone else who made the post on your page. And the magistrate, who is the magistrate?
I can't remember the magistrate name right now.
Is it a Miss Ali?
A female magistrate, Indian.
Okay, probably Miss Ali or Miss Singh. But go ahead. So, and who was your lawyer, sorry?
Susan. Or get her.
Susan. Okay, Susan probably tried. I don't know, but Susan tried.
Right,
it's funny to me that the police, the defense would have been heavily relying on the police statement that this could possibly be someone else. Right away, this matter should have been thrown out. You don't have to go to law school to recognize exactly what has happened to Miss Lane. She was just being bullied, in my opinion, by the judicial system. There was no evidence. The police said point blank, according to Miss Lane here, I have no reason to not to believe her, that they could not establish that it was Miss Lane who made the post. Right away, that entire case should have been crumbled. But instead of that, she was found guilty and has to pay now $500,000 fine. $500,000. Oh man, I just don't know. Miss Lane, quickly before we go, did your lawyer appeal this matter? It should be appealed.
No, she didn't appeal it.
Well, of course, she still has some time to appeal. I suggest that maybe you can talk with your lawyer and appeal this matter. If she's asking for a heck of a lot of money, maybe we can find you another lawyer. I'm not saying that the lawyer may not have fight for you. I'm not discrediting the lawyer at all, but something isn't really working out here. If the police said that they cannot establish that it was you, that should have been the end of the case. But again, anything else before we go?
Well, I say why I am being penalized in this way, because Mark, you know that I'm always on shows like this and I talk the right of the story. And I feel because when I was taken to the station, the thing that went wrong all around social media, that I am a political activist. That's why I was being targeted in this manner.
Well, of course, you're being targeted for many reasons, and it seems as though the people who are being targeted are those who are perceived to be supporters and those who are, of course, blatantly not ashamed to say that they're supporters of the coalition, maybe PNC, AFC, or whatever. And you are being targeted indeed, and that's the conclusion. Again, I rely heavily on what you said. The police said in court that they could not establish that it was you who actually posted those things. And that should have been the end of the case. Look, I'll say this to you, Miss Lane. You do have a strong case to appeal. I hope your lawyer appeals. If she doesn't want to, then find a new lawyer. We will help you find that new lawyer, and we will fight your case all the way to the CCJ.
Oh.
Anything else you want to say to those who are supporting you out here right now?
No, I would like to thank all my supporters, because when the first coming to the station, Leno station, my phone was being held at the station. And through Mr. Kodaki program, I was assisted by, I was given a phone And I was even being assisted to go to the station because I had to be going to Lenore every Monday to report as though I was a big criminal. And they got people in this country who Reuters have begun investigating them, and the CIA, the FBI coming in.
Yeah, that we will get to that there. But thank the people and everything they give you. You got back a phone. We will try to get your yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to thank all those persons and to let them know about the outcome of the case today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, though. I appreciate and I support you and I salute your bravery. God bless you. We are on your side and we will do everything to ensure that you don't pay that $500,000. It's wickedness in high places. Thank you, Rhonda. Appreciate it. All right. You're welcome. Rhonda Lane there. You heard what's happening. You heard about the victimization. $500,000 for some crap. According to Miss Rhonda Lane, the police said that they cannot establish whether she made those posts or not. Again, I say that should have been the end of the matter. I hope Ramjatan is watching. I hope Ramjatan is listening, because when Ramjatan, when they were in office and they were about to pass the cyberbullying crime and all law, I called Ramjatan and I pleaded with him not to allow that draconian law to be passed. Do not allow it to be passed. Because if that happens, then when, let us say, for example, that they were to get out of office, as is the case now, that the PPP will use that as a tool to target supporters, not PPP supporters, because not one single PPP supporter was ever targeted. Look at all the trash that some of them talk. They call themselves talk show hosts and activists, and some of them nasty looking in their language and their whatever, their attire. Every single thing could say all manner of things, and the police do not go after them. The police only go after one set of people, one kind of people, and one bunch of people who support the coalition. That is what they're about. I know of individuals who have said the nastiest set of things against people, females, and all manner of things, but yet they're pomposetting, running around, all because they're big-time supporter of the PPP regime. This one-sided law has to stop. It has to be equal across the board. If you charge Rwanda, well, then you have to charge Rupati. If you charge Rupati, then you have to charge Rita. If you charge Rita, then you have to charge Rachel. You just cannot charge Rhonda alone, because Rhonda is out there and Rhonda speaks out against the ills of this corrupt, installed, racist PPP regime. And then you charge the poor lady. And then whoever that magistrate is, I can put my head on the block that she has not much legal experience at all. And that is what's happening. That is exactly what's happening in Guyana. People make rulings. Most of these magistrates, they make ruling out of emotions and attachment towards political parties. It happens. We're seeing it in the High Court as well. These things have got to stop, and we've got to find a way to stop these things from happening. And that's just what it is. But speaking of cybercrime, there is this case with Bascom. We see here Bascom interdicted from duty over cybercrime charges. And you see the type of individuals, what is happening. You just heard from Rhonda Lane. We heard the story of Detective Sergeant Bascom and others who look like these guys who are being unjustly targeted by the installed PPP regime. It is happening. And Ramjatan, if you're watching Ramjatan, I hope you're feeling guilty for all of these things, because some of you guys, when you were in the coalition, when you guys were in office, y'all don't like to listen to people at all. And we see somewhat of the same traits with some of them in the leadership of the current makeup of the coalition and the PNC. Same nonsense all over again. But like they got one guy usually say in a video, like I fed up, like I tired of them. But look, sorry, let's get back to Bascom here and his situation. Bascom instituted private criminal charges, cybercrime charges against the crime chief. And because he is the crime chief, guess what? The DPP says, no, 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 no. She's not going to allow those charges to continue. So she discontinues private cybercrime charges against that Bascom filed against the crime chief, Mr. Blanham. But the DPP is not going to do anything about the charges, the fictitious cybercrime charges against this cop. They're not going to do that because everything within their powers they're trying to do to discredit this guy. Now, look, I'm sticking with what this guy has said. This has nothing to do with outside who he is as a cop or whatever, whether he take away people, Tamrambali, Ginib de Mitai or whatever. That to me is irrelevant at this point in time. And that is why I've been saying consistently all along that let us stick to what the matter is. The matter is basically he is accusing senior members of the Guyana police force of corruption, of basically trying to cover up a murder probe. Those are the allegations leveled against senior cops of the Guyana police force by Mr. Bascom. And so we're not hearing, we're not seeing any energy coming from the police as it pertains to investigating what Mr. Bascom, Sergeant Bascom, has said concerning the probe into the murder of this guy, Paper Shorts, who happened to be a friend of Roger Khan. And many of you guys already know the Roger Khan, mind you, who is said to have a beef with this guy who drives around pretending as though he is what he's probably not. But then again, it is Guyana, right? So this guy is Azardine Mohammed. Azardine Mohammed, and look at his connections. Look at his connections. All right, here finale, a good friend. Look at his next connection. The acting commissioner of police, Hicken. And then we're told that he gives stuff to the Guyana police force, but his vehicles, whatever. We're told lots of things, okay? And so this cop here now is not being taken seriously by the Guyana police force. His life was threatened, according to him. He said that his life was, he was threatened by this guy who happens to be a security guy over at Azardine Mohammed's, their businesses, right? Their business place, Mark Richmond. To this day, the police force did not pick this guy up to question him at all. No questioning, nothing whatsoever. They did not pick this guy, Azardine Mohammed, up at all. So, you know, what is there for us to conclude? That they're not interested in this guy. They're not interested in questioning him at all. But it appears that they're doing every single thing to discredit this policeman who has revealed certain things about this guy, this cop, this senior cop, Caesar, who is no stranger to controversy. Because back in 2016, I believe, it was one of the PPP guys at Freedom House, a senior PPP official, who said that he claimed at that time that he has video evidence of this guy being corrupt. That was the claim. To this date, we have not seen anything based on the allegations leveled against this cop, Caesar, by a senior member of the PPP back then. And so he's back in the news again. We've heard of allegations of covering up in terms of the Paper Shorts murder, covering up in favor of this guy, Azardine Mohammed. These are the allegations, mind you, I wish to state again, allegations that were leveled by Police Sergeant Bascom about cars being taken to a mechanic shop somewhere out there in West or a body shop, burnt vehicles, all manner of stuff. Those are allegations that we're hearing. But now let's move away from the allegations and the fact that the police force are not interested in pulling those suspects, mind you, in for questioning, pulling them in for questioning. The police, they're not interested in that. Now let's get back to the cybercrime charges against Mr. Bascom. After he got those cybercrime charges, we are hearing now, as of yesterday, he received a letter that was dated two days or a day before he was actually charged. And so he is now interdicted from duty over cybercrime charges. So what is an interdiction? It simply means he can go to work, but he will receive half of his salary. That's all he will receive, but he can go to work pending the outcome of this matter. And based on how we're seeing this thing going, it looks as though they want to do all sorts of things, fabricate even more things to have this cop, who is said to be and who is obviously legally a whistleblower. And because he's a whistleblower, and because he's blowing his whistle against some of the cops who may have done things for these individuals as part of the installed regime. And again, I'm saying may have. I'm not saying that they have, may have, because we understand how the police operate, how a lot of these senior cops operate in Guyana. And so also the other person that's connected to this probe happens to be someone who has a lot of money, overnight riches, and all these different things, lots of it too, and to probably, as we see, he puts it in an envelope and shares out to certain kinds of people. He rushes on the scene. He gives them an envelope. I don't know whether people are just thirsty or dying for that sort of publicity, that they just do whatever it is just to get in the limelight. But this cop here now, everybody in the government, the so-called government, and those in the hierarchy of the Guyana police force seem to be after him. And so he has to be extra careful. He's currently before the court. And so let's go to what the DPP did. The DPP discharged a case against this guy who happens to be the crime chief. And what else have they done that we want to touch on? So the magistrate, when the matter was first called in front of the magistrate, the cybercrime charges against Mr. Bascom, this is Chief Magistrate McLennan. She decided that she's going to take his passport away because the special prosecutor is this guy. And we'll talk a little bit about this guy, Mr. Mandel Moore. He is the special prosecutor in this case. He's also the legal advisor for the Guyana police force. Again, I repeat, the legal advisor, it simply means any case that the police force sure about, they can either the Guyana police force, the DPP, and it depends on who the individual is. The DPP is to move. And if it's a case that we see that she doesn't want to charge, then they're going to prolong and prolong and prolong, as what we're hearing about someone who is a PPP counselor that allegedly interfered with a 14-year-old boy, sexually molested a 14-year-old boy. Now let's remove this photograph off the screen because I don't want people to get the impression that it is that guy who did that. No, it's not. We are hearing that a PPP counselor, a PPP counselor is alleged to have interfered with a 14-year-old boy sexually. In fact, this is a teacher, and the allegations are that this teacher sexually molested. Sexually, again, I repeat, just allegations, mind you, allegations. And the file is set to be before the DPP. I don't know how long the file was actually before the DPP, but it is currently before the DPP. Obviously, the DPP is not going to act as fast as possible, and we can just assume why. This guy's name is Diraj Knott. Diraj Knott is a senior teacher at Hope Secondary School and the chief counselor for the PPP at RDC Region 4. It is alleged, and again I say alleged, because in Guyana they just like to show suspects and all these things, and it depends on who the suspects are. They're going to show the photograph. As in many cases, we hear businessmen or businesswoman and these sort of things, but they don't show who these so-called businessmen and women are. But this guy, mind you, allegations that he's involved in sexual misconduct with a 14-year-old male child. And the file is set to be, a police report was apparently made, and a file was prepared and sent to the DPP for advice. Now, the question is, what exactly is the DPP doing? And how long is it that we are going to hear from the DPP as it pertains to this case with regards to allegations of sexual misconduct of a 14-year-old student? And mind you, the suspect, again, I want to say, the suspect is Diraj Knott. He is a senior teacher at Hope Secondary School and the chief counselor of the PPP. And again, I wish to reiterate that these are allegations, or this is an allegation that is leveled against Knott here. I was made to understand that the executive, the president of the Guyana Teachers Union, was aware of the allegations. This matter was reported to the relevant agency outside of the GTU. And I'm not sure if the president of the GTU, Mr. Mark Light, reported this matter to the executive of the Guyana Teachers Union. I don't know. And if Mr. Mark Light did not report this matter to the executive of the GTU, the question then to Mr. Mark Light is, why wasn't this matter reported? And the question to the DPP is, why is it taking so long to review the evidence and possibly institute charges against this guy? That's the question. Why? We can remember, I don't know if a lot of you follow the case, there was an imam who was actually, an imam who was accused of molesting at an orphanage several boys, 9, 8, 10, 11, 12, several boys. He was an imam attached, I believe, to the CIOG, the Central Islamic Organization that is headed by the husband of the DPP. And so we had a lot of controversy with that case because the imam, it looked as though the imam wasn't going to be charged until pressure was mounted on the DPP chambers, and he was eventually charged. He was found guilty, and he's serving a heck of a lot of years, rightfully so, in prison. You do not molest little boys and little girls. And for those of you who do it, when you get caught, and once the evidence is presented, spend the rest of your lives in jail. That is what it should be. And I do hope that the DPP chambers is not in the habit of covering up these cases. I spoke with the mother, the single mother of those little boys who were molested, sexually molested by that imam. She was on my program many years ago, and she spoke. She spoke in graphic language exactly what the imam did to those boys. And it took the DPP a while before charges were actually instituted against that imam. Now we're hearing another allegation now about someone, allegations, mind you, someone who is a PPP counselor and RDC for Region 4, molesting, allegations, mind you, molesting a 14-year-old male student. 14-year-old. If the president of the Guyana Teachers Union, Mr. Mark Light, was aware of this, and nothing came out of it through the GTU executive branch, well then something has to be done in terms of investigating Mr. Mark Light. If the allegations are true, that he knew about the allegations stemming from this cop again, and the controversy surrounding him and sexual misconduct allegations against a 14-year-old boy. Many of you would recall that's a few years ago, a sitting president of the Guyana Teachers Union was actually charged. The allegations were that he bought a fried rice for a 14 or 15-year-old girl, took her to the seawall, had some fried rice with her, and then after he had some fried rice with her, he wanted some other fried rice. And so the evidence led that he had some other fried rice. He was charged and he was convicted. That was a president of the GTU, I believe, Mr. King. That was many years ago. And so if this current president, Mr. Mark Light, is aware of that, then aware that this guy is alleged to have sexually molested a 14-year-old student, then this is unacceptable. But we're watching because of this guy's political connection. We are watching. And many of you probably may not know, but just prior to the elections, the 2020 elections, there was a man across the river, a PPP supporter, who happens to be a pandit, interfered with a girl either under the age of 15 or 16 or something like that. Because, you know, in Guyana, it is legal to have sexual intercourse with someone above the age of 15 or maybe 16. Not 18, either 16, I believe it is legal. But there is a pandit who is a staunch supporter of the PPP, is alleged to have sexually violated a 16-year-old or a 15-year-old girl. She was so ashamed that she committed suicide. Nothing happened to that matter at all. In fact, the then commander, Mr. Simeon McBean, for that region, over in Region 3, I don't know what has happened to that case, but Mr. McBean is now the commander for Region 4. That is whatever you call it. Sorry about that. The commanding officer. There is a code for that. Sorry. Region 4 commander. Get for that. And so lots of these have seen it has happened. And once they are connected to the PPP, guess what? They try their level best to cover every single thing up. I know of cases of a lot of little boys and girls who were sexually molested, and the agency, through the individual, Ms. Prasad, who is head of the Hindu organization in Guyana. I don't know what they do, whether they cover up these matters, but a lot of young people, a lot of boys and girls are being sexually molested in Guyana. When I was there, I dealt with so many cases, and people were ashamed to come forward. There were parents who took money to cover up the matter and all these things. But let me tell you guys this. When a boy or a girl is sexually molested, that is taken with them for the rest of their lives. That scar, that trauma is there with them. And when we have a system, whether it's the DPP, whether it's the installed regime, or whether it's the police force that do not, for the most part, protect those individuals, those little angels, then something is wrong with our system. Something is wrong with those who are leaders of the country. Something is wrong with the judicial system. Something is wrong with the police force. In fact, we heard out there in Berbice as well, there was a policeman accused of sexually molesting a boy. I don't know what has happened to that matter, but all these cases against these little kids, boys and girls, it needs to stop. One way or the other, it needs to stop. And so in the case and the allegations leveled against this guy, let us hope that we will hear something about it based on the evidence presented. Now, this is not my duty to say that he is guilty. I don't know, but I'm saying the allegations, they're serious allegations. And if there is any energy to or effort to cover up this crime, then it should not be covered up if he's guilty of the allegations leveled against him. Now let's move on to some other matters as we look at the time. 9 minutes after, 10 o'clock? Let's get to this here now, the Guyana Police Force, and people asking, what is PLA? Well, PLA is the Police Legal Advisor. The Police Legal Advisor is the person who is a lawyer. Claudette Singh was, before she became chairman of the Guyana Elections Commission. She was the legal advisor for the police. But while she was also legal advisor, I think it would have been conflict of interest. She also worked at the then chambers of the Attorney General. She worked under and she worked with Anil Nandalal. A lot of you probably didn't realize that she was actually at the Attorney General's chambers working there for Anil Nandalal. I'm not sure if it was a set time. She worked simultaneously at the Attorney General's office and as advisor to the police. She was the legal advisor for the police. I repeat, she was the legal, and this is the position now that Mandel Moore holds. Mandel Moore is a lawyer, and he was once attached to the DPP's chambers. This is Mandel Moore. And Mandel Moore is in the news now. Here why Mandel Moore is in the news. That he rushed up when Mr. Bascom, Police Sergeant Bascom, was actually charged with a cybercrime, and he pleaded with the magistrate. He told the magistrate that the accused should be remanded to prison for cybercrime. Allegations of silly, fabricated cybercrime charges brought against Mr. Bascom. I'm sure if Azardine Mohammed turned up in court, this guy would not be saying that Azardine Mohammed should be remanded to prison. I'm just using that as an example. Or he wouldn't say if, let us say, some other individuals like a Jagmohan or a Raja Khan or these individuals, some of these individuals, you know what I mean? He would not be saying that. but Bascom, sorry, because he feels if he says certain things against Bascom that he will be in the good books of some of those culprits in Guyana, and especially in the Guyana police force as well. And so this guy asked for Bascom to be remanded to prison. His passport was taken away, and all manner of things. And this guy, suddenly, he is the special prosecutor. The last time Nigel Hughes was on this program, I asked Mr. Hughes whether he got a fiat, meaning permission from the DPP chambers. He has to have that letter. It has to be stamped with a stamp by the DPP and properly signed and delivered to the chief magistrate. Nigel was unaware whether that was done. We're still unaware whether that was legally done or not. But he appeared today again. And every time he appears, the magistrate says, look, you have to bring this evidence of the press conference by the Commissioner of Police and the crime chief, Mr. Blanham. He keeps putting it off until today. The magistrate said to him, here what? You got to bring this. We need the evidence. We need it in court. He didn't bring it. And so this is what the magistrate did, Miss Daly. Miss Daly asked that he be removed from the courtroom by law enforcement officers. Removed from the courtroom. He was removed from the courtroom and placed downstairs at the court to sit on the bench. Now, you guys tell me, what exactly is that? Even though the Guyana police force is rushing out now to issue a statement to say that this guy was not remanded, he was not detained, he's all manner of things they're trying to say. And these people are supposed to be lawyers. This guy is supposed to be a lawyer. And now let me describe it again to you. The magistrate, after he refused, he didn't bring the evidence that he was supposed to, the magistrate asked that he be removed. Not by his free will. The magistrate didn't say, go on your own and return. The magistrate asked the police to remove him from the court and place him downstairs on the bench where I sat over probably 100 times. And when you sit on that bench, you get a different feeling. It's like you are stripped of humanity. And so that's the bench he sat on. I know how he probably felt because people were watching him sitting on the prisoner's bench. Sorry, I shouldn't be laughing because this guy is actually a relative of mine. So I shouldn't be laughing, but he's on the other side of the law. And in my opinion, he's on the wrong side of the law, fighting the wrong issues. And when you fight against issues such as human rights and violations of people's rights in every form, I don't care who you are. We're going to be up against each other. So this guy here sat on that bench for maybe 10, 15 minutes. I don't know how long. I know how humiliated he felt because he felt that he's the police legal advisor. He's a lawyer. He should not be sitting where... Sorry about that. You should not be sitting there because, as I have said to you, there are times you're stripped of your humanity. On that bench, there's something on that bench that saps every human thing, every human nature out of you. And then you're sitting there on the bench and people looking at you all funny. And then you want to duck your head. Or if you're brave enough, you might ask them for a cigarette. Hey, give me a wag, or let me a lighter, or hey, man, buy a juice for you, buy, I don't know what he was saying, whether he was saying buy a juice for you, buy, but I know he wasn't too pleased. He was probably pissed off, right? And so the magistrate sent back for him. And he appeared in court again. And this is what the magistrate said. Tomorrow at 11 o'clock, I want you to bring the evidence for me. And what is the evidence? The evidence is the police press conference. He's not bringing it. For those of you who are lawyers out there, right, Ed? Good night to you, sir. For those of you who are lawyers out there, you can tell me what really transpired. And that the fact that he is the legal advisor for the police and he's refusing to bring that key piece of evidence in the court tells a big story. And that story is that there's a possibility, there is this possibility that they want to continue to cook up this whole story against Mr. Bascom so that Mr. Bascom can be discredited. And they want the allegations that he is leveled against Caesar and Blanham and against Azardine Mohammed and Mark Richmond and all these guys to just go away like that. And so they will do everything. This is the perception, mind you, that they are doing everything to go after Mr. Bascom and to make Mr. Bascom the culprit, to discredit him and all manner of things. So they're going to call some of their friends and some of their cronies to say things to discredit Bascom, to say that he was this and he was that. Look, whatever Bascom is or whatever he has done, when he took away people Polari or whatever, is irrelevant at this point in time. This is not to condone some of allegations or whatever. Now is not the time for that. It is just not the time for that. So back to this guy. So he has to appear in court tomorrow, reappear in court tomorrow with the evidence. If he doesn't turn up with the evidence, then the magistrate will remand him to prison. So he may be in prison by tomorrow. They try to use all sorts of silly, dotish legal terms of which they themselves are not familiar with. Again, I know there are some lawyers watching, listening. If a magistrate asks that anyone be removed, in this case, there's this lawyer, removed from court by police and placed into temporary custody as a result of disobeying the magistrate's order, it is considered contempt of court. And so he was placed in temporary custody as a result of being in contempt of the court. There's no there's nothing questionable about that. It is straightforward. He was placed on the bench because he was deemed to be in contempt of the court and the magistrate's order. So let the police force, let Mr. Mandel Moore, let none of them come to you with any jiggery pokery. He wasn't placed in jail. He wasn't in jail, but he was detained. He was detained as a result of being in contempt of the court. And after about 15 minutes or so, the magistrate sent for him. He got back in court and all quiet down and probably all pissed off and all ashamed that he was detained. And so because of his ego, he's now rushing out to say that, oh, I wasn't detained and it wasn't this, it wasn't contempt of court. Stop the BS, Mandel Moore. Stop the BS. Stop the BS police force, because you guys don't know better. Some of you claim to be trained lawyers, but I wonder what sort of training and which law school did you guys attend to come with that BS to tell people that he was not in contempt of court and he was not. So then what was it then? You were in contempt of court. End of story. Now let's get to the evidence now that he's supposed to take to court tomorrow. The evidence is basically the press conference, that hastily put together press conference by Hicken, the acting commissioner of police, and by that guy, Blanham, who is supposed to be a lawyer and should be admitted to the bar of Guyana very soon. Now, in the United States of America, or maybe other democratic countries, and some of you lawyers who are watching would know that no one would be admitted to the bar if there are controversies, serious and questionable controversies surrounding them. They are not fit to be admitted to the bar. But then again, Guyana, that's a different story. Anybody could be admitted to the bar just like that, right? Maybe now that under the installed regime, you just got to be friends of the regime and everything will wash away. And they're trying their level best to wash everything away. Maybe that is why the DPP moved so hastily to discontinue the private cybercrime charge against Mr. Blanham, because Mr. Blanham is about to be, admitted to the bar of Guyana. So all these things we just let you know right here on Straight Up on 107.1 FM. So let's get to the big question now. Tomorrow, this guy has to take the evidence, the police press conference. And now it has to be in the original form. If the police press conference, if they call a press conference, they have to present that tape. Now, here's the big thing now that would probably have some of you smiling. They're claiming, according to information, that they do not have a copy of the press conference. Now, what sort of BS is this? The police call a press conference. They wish to say in court, they may say that in court tomorrow, if they don't produce that press conference, that recording of the press conference, they may say that it was hastily put together and so they didn't have time to record it. BS! It took 1 hour before they prepared for that press conference because they sent out a notice. I saw that notice. It was sent out. And so they cannot say that it was hastily put together when you have to send a notice out, and then you got to get all of the reporters. You get a Travis Trace, and then you get a Gordon Mosley, and all the other guys, and Tanisha Brawl, and all those guys rushing down there, right? All of them. It wouldn't take them 10 minutes. They got to be there the most at least 45 minutes. And so 1 hour after, you're telling me that the press conference that Hicken called and Blanham called, rushed to have a press conference as quickly as possible. And the press conference by itself, I wonder exactly what that was all about. And so Hicken and these guys, the acting top cop, called the press conference. They said a bunch of gibberish, things that didn't make sense. They went after Bascom. They leveled all manner of allegations against Bascom, said all manner of things against Bascom, said he was a liar, he was this, he was that, all manner of things against Bascom. That is why Bascom went after Blanham and filed private cybercrime charges against Blanham because Blanham called him all manner of things. And maybe could that be the reason why they do not want to produce that press conference recording in court? Mind you, some of you might be asking, why can't they get the recording from maybe Bench Up Radio? We'll be more than willing to give them a copy of that press conference. Or why can't they get it somewhere else? No, it has to come directly from the Guyana police force, directly. And maybe this explains why, again I say, maybe this explains why this young lawyer, a trained lawyer, mind you, who is the legal advisor for the police, is playing games. He's not producing that evidence in court. A critical piece of evidence he needs to present in court. And in my opinion, if that evidence is not presented, then Bascom case, his lawyer Nigel Hughes should ask that the matter be thrown out, done with, because they're playing games, they're tampering, it appears, with evidence and trying to prevent justice to be done in this matter. They're trying to prevent that at every cost. And we just cannot sit by, idly by, and allow this to happen to Mr. Bascom. Or in fact, we should not allow this to happen to anyone at all. And so they are playing games. But let's see what happens tomorrow at 11 o'clock in the morning when Mr. Mandel Moore has to present that evidence. What could he say? You can't say that y'all don't have that evidence. If you don't have the evidence, then you need to fire 2 persons right away. Call them tomorrow. Mark Ramotar, who is the PR, he's civilian PR for the police. Well, you know, these guys now think they're police too. And Stan Govaya. You can't tell me Stan Govaya, with his years of experience in the media, and Mark Ramotar, who was the editor-in-chief at Chronicle newspaper. You can't tell me that with the experience of these 2 guys in media, that to know that there is a press conference with the police coming up in about an hour's time, to know that they have to record that press conference. The police force also has a recording unit, and you see them every time there's a protest out there, they're recording people. You're telling me you have such a press conference held by the acting police commissioner and the crime chief, and they're now claiming that it wasn't recorded? If that is what Mr. Mandel will say officially tomorrow, and if he takes the 2 PR guy, Mr. Stan Govaya and Mr. Mark Ramotar, to say that, well then, you know exactly where this is heading. And we know definitely that the police force is as corrupt as it is, and it would be more evidence. Now, I could be wrong. Mr. Mandel could walk into that courtroom tomorrow and present the evidence. But based on the fact that on 2 or 3 previous occasions, he did not present the evidence. And as a special prosecutor, he should know that. As a lawyer, he should know that. In order to argue a case, in order to present a case, you need the evidence. And you cannot violate the law by not presenting the evidence. It's because it simply means that there is no justice, and you are not supposed to be sitting there as a lawyer, knowing very well that you're not allowing the case to go in the direction that it ought to go, and you're doing every single thing to stymie the process. That is the perception. That may not be the case. Mr. Moore, but that is the perception right now, that you are the culprit that is doing everything. Maybe you're taking orders again. Maybe. I'm not saying that you are the culprit or anything. For all you know, that you guys just don't have the tape. But if you don't have the tape, then there should be no case against Mr. Bascom. Now, a lot of you remember, maybe you don't. A few years ago, there was a case out in Bambam Alley, and I really do mean that Bambam Alley, Orange Walk. You should know Bambam Alley by now, right? Some of y'all political leaders sit at Bambam Alley. Nothing wrong with sitting at Bambam Alley, mind you. I have gone there on one or a couple of occasions, and I like Bambam Alley because Bambam Alley is exactly what it is, Bambam Alley. Now, having said that, there was a case many years ago where someone was shot and killed. Someone was shot and killed right there at Bambam Alley. And we saw on video a man walked out of his car, stepped out of his car, pulled out an illegal gun, and shot and murdered a man right there. We saw it on video. But because there was no one to own the video, no one claimed that they were responsible for that video, the matter was thrown out and the man won the murder case because there was no evidence presented in court. None whatsoever. A bit ticklish. In the US, that probably would not have happened, but the laws in Guyana are so antiquated. The laws are so old that probably in 1900 or the 1800, those laws are still there. They are still there. And many people are being punished as a result of those antiquated laws. The British has moved on. The British has reformed their laws, but Guyana is still way behind. So tomorrow, we will be monitoring this case. 11 o'clock, Mr. Mandel is supposed to present the evidence. I have 1,000 Guyana dollars. I'll tell you guys this here. Now, I want to tell you guys this here, how I think this is going to end up. Mr. Mandel will go to court tomorrow and say that he does not have an original copy of the video and that they have asked the PR, Mr. Mark Ramotar and Mr. Stan Govaya, to try to obtain, and he may ask them to come to say that they did not record it because it was hastily put together and all manner of things. So I'll tell you guys this here. Remember, you heard it right here. I would be surprised. I'd be surprised if Mr. Mandel Moore, the special prosecutor in this case, cybercrime, this dotish, this fictitious, this fake cybercrime case against Mr. Bascom, I'd be surprised if he turned the evidence over to the magistrate. Just watch what's going to happen. But before we go, let's remember there are other people. Their cases are being languished in the court. We're not hearing about these guys. They were wrongfully charged. All manner of things as a result of the police. And if we see these allegations leveled against these very cops who brought charges against these people, these respectable, these patriotic citizens of Guyana who did nothing wrong, but yet they're being persecuted like others, Trevor Ben and all the others who are being persecuted by the PPP regime. It is for this reason. All of us should continue to say that Guyana is an apartheid state run by a bunch of corrupt, racist individuals who are being aided and abetted by people questionable background who are pomposetting themselves as legitimate businessmen. But as we know, there should be and ought to be some extradition request soon. So some of them who believes that they're on top of the world and they could do this and they could do that. Law enforcement agencies outside of Guyana have them on their radars. That's all. Some of you may already know that. Some of them may already know that they are on the radars of law enforcement agencies in the US, in Canada, and in the UK. Maybe that's why a lot of them do not even go at the borders. They can't go at the border, Brazil border or Suriname border, or they can't join me in Barbados for a cup of coffee or a cup of tea. But for now, my name is Mark Benshop. I gotta go. You guys know I like to drive out in style. You know what I mean? I love to drive out in style. And here I am tonight, driving out in style. As I see some of your comments: corruption, corruption. Yes, apartheid regime, apartheid Guyana. That is what it is. That is what it is, my friends. And that is why we need a far more aggressive opposition that could go out there and be as aggressive as they can, because this regime has become worse than it has been for the 23 years they were in office. Ramaya has reminded us of that. And for that, I say I'll be back tomorrow, same place, same time, right here on 107.1 FM, the station that they're also after now. But I'll tell you guys, I know why they're after us. They're also after Channel 9. They're also after CN Sharma. I'll tell you why. It has nothing to do with because, oh, we haven't paid our license fees. That's what they're going to say, that we haven't paid our license fees. But if the state is after us and discriminates against us at 107.1 FM, they discriminate against Channel 9, they discriminate against CN Sharma. They don't give us state ads, but they give their friends and cronies hundreds of millions of dollars worth of state ads. And then when the ordinary private citizen, they advertise their business on our stations, whether radio or TV, guess what? The PPP goons go after them and threaten them, oh, why you advertise? So we are being squeezed all over. And so for us, it is unfair, but we don't lose sleep here at 107.1 FM. We continue doing what we have to do. To hell with them in the regime, and we are not bothered by them because they give their friends and cronies hundreds of millions of dollars, but we must suck salt, right? Well, we will not suck salt. In fact, we're not into the sucking business of salt or egg or whatever, but we'll take the egg and we'll make egg, rice, and whatever. We'll put some salt, we'll put some pepper on it, and we will survive. Just like our ancestors have survived for 400 years, we will survive. My name is Mark Benshop. Until, when is it? Until tomorrow, same place, same time, right here on 107.1 FM. God bless you. Yeah. Sorry about that. God bless you, and God bless our beautiful, beautiful country. Mwah. Love you guys. Bye-bye.
Sanko boy, you better run. Sanko boy, police are come. Sanko boy, you better run. Sanko boy, policeman are come.
Sanko licky love up on the dam and the gala holla murder. Sanko licky love up on the dam and the gala holla murder.
Police are come and the gala holla murder. Police are come and the gala holla murder. Sanko kissy love up on the dam and the gala holla murder. Sanko kissy love up on the dam and the gala holla murder. Police are come and the gala holla murder. Police are come and the gala holla murder. Sanko boy, you better run. Sanko boy, police are come. Sanko boy, you better run. Sanko boy, policeman are come.
Sanko chasey love up on the dam and the gala holla murder. Sanko chasey love up on the dam and the gala holla murder.
Police are come and the gala holla murder. Police are come and the gala holla murder. Sanko catchy love up on the dam and the gala holla murder. Sanko catchy love up on the dam and the gala holla murder. Police are come and the gala holla murder. Police are come and the gala holla murder. Sanko boy, you better run. Sanko boy, police are come. Sanko boy, you better run. Sanko boy, policeman are come.
Sanko squeezy love up on the dam and the gala holla murder. Sanko squeezy love up on the dam and the gala holla murder.
Police are come and the gala holla murder. Police are come and the gala holla murder. Sanko left me love up on the dam and the gala holla murder. Sanko
This is attorney Shellen
Sanko Licky
Washington,
love up on the
owner
dam and the
and
gala.
founder of the Washington Law Firm, located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you. So call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.
Holla murder, Sanko Licky love up on the dam and the gala. Holla murder.
Police are come and the gala. Holla murder. Police are come and the gala. Holla murder. Sanko kissy love up on the dam and the gala. Holla murder. Sanko kissy love up on the dam and the gala. Holla murder. Police are come and the gala. Holla murder. Police are come and the gala. Holla murder. Sanko boy, you better run. Sanko boy, police are come. Sanko boy, you better run. Sanko boy, police wanna come.
Sanko Chessy love up on the dam and the gala. Holla murder. Sanko Chessy love up on the dam and the gala. Holla murder.
Police are come and the gala. Holla murder. Police are come and the gala. Holla murder. Sanko catchy love up on the dam and the gala. Holla murder. Sanko catchy love up on the dam and the gala. Holla murder. Police are come and the gala. Holla murder. Police are come and the gala. Holla murder. Sanko boy, you better run. Sanko boy.